Extendivite are amazing. Amazon customer. It's amazing. I just ordered my second bottle. In 1 month, my blood pressure dropped significantly. I no longer get chest pain after I exercise. The reviews are spot on. My target is to get off of BP meds, and if it keeps going like this, I see a light at the end of the tunnel. Amazon customer. Extendivite works great. This product has made my blood pressure and cholesterol stable. I highly recommend it. Amazon customer. Excellent herbal formula. I've been using it to keep my cardiovascular system fine-tuned. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, March 25th, 2021. Sure happy it's Thursday, sure happy it's Thursday, sure happy it's Thursday. And if I sound a little bit different, or if you're watching on YouTube, we're trying a new audio setup today, which is hopefully going to get rid of the problem we've been having with phone calls echoing back through the feed and causing all kinds of half-duplex problems with Skype. So we're not going to really understand how that works until hour number 2, because we're going to do hour number 1 for news and hour number 2 for your phone calls. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble, so let's get right on into it. Our 21-year-old suspect in the Colorado shooting made his first appearance in court this morning. There's been a candlelight vigil for the 10 victims. Meanwhile, a grocery store the grocery store shooter, quote, is a stupid loner who lived in the basement of his family's $800,000 home. He worked in their Middle Eastern restaurant, and he's never had a girlfriend, according to the brother-in-law. So, again, the ideal sort of person that could be recruited and trained and conditioned to do something, nefarious for political purposes here. Over at the market, King Scoopers, one of the workers there says that she narrowly escaped the gunman, while a barista describes the moment he hit his co-worker behind trash cans to keep her safe from the shooter who killed 10 people. All right. Now, interestingly enough, the Boulder attack is the 7th high-profile mass shooting where the attacker was known to the FBI beforehand. And it kind of makes you wonder if the FBI is, in fact, setting all of these up, or if they're just so incompetent that they knew these people were out there and didn't realize they were going to go ballistic. And remember, the gun that the shooter had was not the problem. The problem were the guns that the victims did not have with which to return fire. Okay, checking YouTube right now. I'm trading notes with our control room because we're working the bugs out of this new setup while I'm doing the actual show here. One of the victims of the shooter in Colorado was a police officer, Eric Talley, and he unfortunately, he rushed into the supermarket to try and protect the innocent, and he was killed, and he leaves behind 7 children, and that really, really is a tragedy. Story coming on out of, the Hideout Now, is why is nobody talking about the race of the shooting victims by the Muslim gunman Ahmed al-Issa? And it's a very, very good question. Story coming on out of, let's see, I need to get a little closer. ToddStarnes.com. Why the New York Times did not publish the headline, Muslim Man Guns Down 10 White Americans. And they're contrasting the media coverage of the 2 shootings, one in Atlanta and one at Boulder. And the big question I have is, why has nobody connected the Boulder shooting to last month's U.S. bombing of Syria? And maybe that was the motive of this Syrian individual shooting all of these white people. but we're not getting any word about what his motive actually was. All right, this morning, Biden hosted his first formal news conference at the White House. He's been getting a lot of criticism for not dealing with the press here. However, the subjects were limited to the border, guns, and COVID, so I think it was more of a theatrical set piece than it was a real press conference where the media is out there shouting questions. And last night, there was another conference, a meeting at the White House discussing the border crisis, where Biden again blamed Trump for the migrant surge. And then he said, "Ron, who am I turning this over to?" At which point the chief of staff asked the press to leave the room. So again, Biden is showing his true nature or his true condition. Over at the rest of the Congress, the rest of the government, Rachel Levine has been confirmed as Assistant Health Secretary. She is the first openly transgender person to be ratified for the cabinet by the Senate. Now, remember, this is a individual, I guess is a safe way to say it, who is not apparently all that healthy, herself. Certainly overweight. And the really scary part is that she is an advocate of sex changes for children, not just labels, but we're talking hormone treatments and surgeries and all of that. Senators Mazie Hirono of Hawaii, we called her Crazy Mazie when we lived there, and Tammy Duckworth are both saying they will refuse to vote for any of President Joe Biden's nominees who are not racial minorities. They're going to vote against all straight white male nominees. White and straight is a tacky no-no. It is a no-go. And this is racist and discriminatory. It's in reverse, but it's still racist and discriminatory. I don't want a checklist of minority groups running this government. I want the very best people possible, a meritocracy. I want the smartest, most intelligent, most educated people, and I don't care what their color or gender or orientation is, and I don't need to have my nose rubbed in it. Getting on to other corruption, Jen Psaki brushed off a reporter who was asking why Hunter Biden received $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife. And Jen Psaki claimed to the reporter she never even heard the story that Hunter Biden's company was paid $3.5 million by the wife of the ex-Moscow mayor. So the cover-ups are continuing. Getting into the world of election fraud, and there's a lot of stuff really happening there. A veteran Democratic operative intricately involved in Green Bay's November election was given access to hidden identifiers for the internet network at the Hotel Convention Center where the ballots were counted, according to emails obtained by the Wisconsin Spotlight. Green Bay city officials insist the presidential election was administered exclusively by city staff, but the emails show that Michael Spitzer Rubenstein, Wisconsin state lead for the National Vote at Home Institute, had a troubling amount of contact with the election administration on November 4th. So they're getting ready to dig into that. However, Green Bay officials turned down a request to testify, saying they're busy. So the cover-ups are continuing. The fraud goes on. You're going to love this next one. This is coming out of Domagood. And Democrats are actually out there saying that removing dead people from voter rolls is voter suppression. This is not The Onion. This is not satire. This is really what they're saying. And this is coming out of PJ Media. And during the hearing into H.R. 1, one of the Democratic witnesses argued that removing dead people from the voter rolls is voter suppression, that dead people may actually feel deprived of their right to vote. That is really, really out there. Getting on to the other hot topic in the Congress right now, Kamala Harris is pushing Congress to act immediately on gun control legislation to create, quote, a lasting impact, end quote. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden has not ruled out taking executive action to tackle gun violence, but Congress should pass gun control legislation for a more lasting impact, according to U.S. co-president Kamala Harris. Now, Senator John Kennedy, and we mentioned this the other day, you don't stop drunk drivers by getting rid of all sober drivers, and that's absolutely true. And you know what really bothers me is when somebody over in the Middle East commits an act of terror, they say, well, it's just the one guy. We shouldn't judge all the Muslims by the actions of a crazy few. And yet the gun owners of this country don't get the same deal. Every time there is a mass shooting, staged or otherwise, all gun owners are demonized. We're expected to share in the guilt. Well, I don't feel guilty, and I don't intend to. Over in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, you're going to love this one, they have ruled that the Second Amendment does not guarantee the open carry of guns in public. And this was a case that actually originated in Hawaii. It's on its way to the United States Supreme Court. Well, if they're not handing out concealed carry permits and you're not allowed to carry openly, then basically you are disarmed, and the first criminal, rapist, mugger, Black Lives Matter, Antifa who comes along will find easy prey. Up in Oregon, they are really, really cracking down on the gun laws up there. And this is from stationgossip.com, and they're saying that the Oregon gun bill would create an unnavigable minefield of felony traps for concealed handgun license holders. That means the people who already have the licenses for concealed handguns, they're going to be facing all kinds of pitfalls trying to take, use their rights to basically keep that out there. A little bit of corruption news here. Story coming out of Israel-Palestine News. Donald Trump apparently relied heavily on a pro-Israel network that revolved around two influential Jewish organizations tied to Jared Kushner to decide who would get pardons. This is actually coming out of the New York Times. The Aleph Institute and the Tzedek Association are tied to influential lawyers, including Israel partisan Alan Dershowitz. And so that's where the decision-making for the pardons came from, and that explains why Julian Assange and Edward Snowden were left off the list, even though they are very deserving of presidential pardons. If I'm elected president, those are the first two pardons that go out. Okay. Twitter has conveniently, mistakenly censored photos of the migrant overflow cells that came out of the Project Veritas video. And along with that, we're finding out that Facebook actually spends more on lobbying Washington, D.C. than Big Pharma or the defense industry giants. They absolutely do not want to have their party ruined there. Let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. It's still definitely out there. AstraZeneca was caught presenting incomplete data. They drew criticism for it, and now they're downgrading their claims about the COVID vaccine. Originally, AstraZeneca said that it would block 79% of the cases. Now they're hemming and hawing and saying, well, it's really only 76% of the cases, and frankly, I don't think it's even that good. Otherwise, why lie about it at all? You're going to love this one, too. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is out there selling the idea that Russia is using disinformation to erode Americans' trust in vaccines. And he told this to the NATO summit. He said the Kremlin wants everybody to die of COVID, and that's why they're putting out propaganda to make everybody scared of getting the vaccine. Well, Russia really doesn't need to do that, do they? Because the vaccines have succeeded in destroying confidence in themselves, especially the mRNA vaccines. Another story coming on out from humansarefree.com. The CDC is out there pretending that nobody is getting injured or killed from the COVID-19 vaccines. Now, the official death count from the COVID-19 injections has nearly doubled since early March, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention really doesn't appear to have noticed. They just want to go on saying that it's, it's all perfectly okay and you can get the vaccine. And the same thing was happening back in 1976 during that swine flu debacle, When the first people started dying from the vaccine, it was, they had pre-existing conditions. They high mortality. The vaccine is safe. The vaccine is safe, until it became so obvious that the vaccine was killing more people than the swine flu, that they had to cancel the program about 25% of the way through. Over in Hong Kong, the Pfizer vaccines, not used to that being hanging in front of me. The Pfizer vaccines have been halted in Hong Kong after multiple defects were reported. Health officials have halted shipments of the Pfizer vaccine. The South China Morning Post reports that frontline healthcare workers discovered over 50 instances of cracked and leaking vials. Now, how can Pfizer guarantee the consistency and safety of the mRNA science if they can't actually deliver the vials intact and properly preserved? Okay. Brazil becomes the second country to top 300,000 COVID-19 deaths as under fire President Bolsonaro blames the surge on coronavirus variants, but is still refusing to impose restrictions. Now, over in the United Kingdom, they've been under lockdown for an entire year, so has most of the United States. And according to this article that we are seeing out of Zero Hedge, the lockdown didn't work. It never worked. It wasn't even supposed to work. It was just an exercise in exerting power over the entire population. And the politicians, Boris Johnson and the rest of them, they get excited when they get everybody to do something like this. Go into lockdown. Ooh, it's great. Can we get them to stand on one leg? Oh, yeah, we can do that. Can we get them to paint their nose bright red? Yes, we can get that. That's pretty amazing stuff there. So they're having a lot of fun, and we're paying the price for it. This is a tragic story, and it gets back to something that we talked about yesterday about childhood suicides are skyrocketing under the lockdown. And so this story coming out of the Daily Mail, there was a 15-year-old schoolboy, Kian Southway, who posted a message to Snapchat saying goodbye after struggling to cope days into the lockdown. And he sent a message saying goodbye, everyone, and then hanged himself in his home in Ronda. Sorry about that. So it is a tragedy. It really is. Now, remember one of the things when this whole COVID thing started up, they said hand sanitizers. You got to have hand sanitizers. Oh, my goodness. Got to have the hand sanitizers. And people were making it and selling it all over the place here. Well, according to this story coming out of Your Destiny Now, a study of 44 different hand sanitizers made during the pandemic shortages discovered they have high levels of benzene, which is a known carcinogen. It is considered as dangerous as asbestos. So they rushed that on out there. They weren't being too careful with the chemical composition or safety. And so a lot of people have been exposed to this benzene, which can be absorbed through the skin. And again, it is a carcinogen. It can lead to cancer. Speaking of harmful chemicals, there's another story. This one came on out from let me get this again, from eatthis.com. I love that domain name, eatthis.com. And it's talking about an ingredient. It's called tert-butylhydroquinone. It is usually abbreviated as TBHQ, and it's used in things like Pop-Tarts, Rice Krispie Treats, Cheez-Its to prolong the shelf life, and it has been discovered it suppresses the immune function. It may harm your immune system, making you more susceptible to illness. Boy, they just put these chemicals out there, and they really don't care what they're going to do, as long as they make their money. Getting to the international news, the European Union Foreign Minister, Joseph Borrell, is out there saying that Russia has become a dangerous neighbor. I mean, this is propaganda, plain and simple. It's becoming more and more authoritarian. I mean, look who's talking. And NATO should push back. Yes, let's have a war. It'll be fun. Your kids aren't going to go in there. Over in Israel, there is a pro-Israel think tank that is pushing a new progressive agenda, and it's actually called, I kid you not, Progressive Accept Palestine. And this is basically an attempt to accommodate pro-Israel Jewish Americans. Israel, meanwhile, is basically screaming at the United Nations Human Rights Council over what Israel describes as obsessive and biased resolutions. Now, Israel yesterday condemned the UN Human Rights Councils over resolutions condemning the Jewish state. And again, they're out there saying it's anti-Israel, it's discriminatory. I'm surprised they didn't say anti-Semitic Jew haters who want Hitler to come back and gas all the Jewish babies or something. Down in Bolivia, oh my goodness, how time flies when you're having fun. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it. As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus.
$500 gets you 2 Commander memberships at Front Sight. $500 for 2 Commander memberships. Give one to whomever you would like.
Born in the city with a silver spoon, great-grandson of the oil tycoon, raised by wolves, thinks he owns the moon, socialist banker to the one world goons, Davy Rockefeller, chairman of the CFR.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're talking about Bolivia. Now, back in 2019, they went through a coup d'etat. We had a story about that a week ago saying that lithium was a prime motivator of trying to get Bolivia under a government friendly to the U.S. But interestingly enough, the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, is accusing Elon Musk and Tesla of having had a hand in the coup. And they're pointing the finger of blame at a single Elon Musk tweet that they say kicked the entire thing off. I don't know if I believe that, but it was an interesting story anyway. The U.S. Army is planning to revamp the way it positions and deploys its forces to become a multi-domain power by 2035 to better confront Russia and China, according to a new strategy paper. And the paper says the U.S. faces an unprecedented set of challenges. That part is true, but it's got nothing to do with Russia and China. And yeah, they even use the word. It hypes the threat of Russia and China on the world stage, accusing the countries of trying to replace the U.S. as the global hegemon. Well, maybe they don't want to live under a global hegemon. You ever think about that? China and Russia continue to challenge the rules-based international order. That's the phrase they're using there, meaning they refuse to do what we, the United States, tell them to do. Well, if you look at the condition of the United States right now, why would any other nation want that kind of governance for themselves and their own people? And I would say no. You know, if we were running a just, moral nation with honest elections and a fair, non-corrupt government and the money junkies brought under control, then we've got the right to stand up and say the rest of you should want to be like us. But with all this transgender nonsense and LGBTQ and, election fraud, economic hardship, economic corruption, what nation in their right mind would want to be like this? Story coming on out of the original antiwar.com, the U.S. and NATO are planning to try and recruit India into a global alliance against China and Russia. Now, this was an opinion piece appearing in the Hindustan Times. A former State Department official, A. Wes Mitchell, called for this year's NATO summit to invite India, one of the world's two most populous nations, to become a NATO partner. Obviously, with a population like that, they can provide a lot of the ground forces that will get ground up in the next World War. Story coming on out of Zero Hedge. The U.S. is continuing to smuggle oil while Turkey complains to Russia that it can't. And we had a story earlier in the week where Syria says that right now 90% of Syria's oil is under U.S. control. And that, of course, is a major reason, if not the major reason, the United States went in there to control the oil, to make sure it went where the U.S. wanted it to go. We had a story just yesterday where it talked about how the U.S. military is the world's largest consumer of oil products, and obviously if you don't have access to oil, you cannot fight a conventional war. Okay, moving on, he said. There are reports now of drone strikes in Yemen, harming civilians. It's being described as death falling from the skies. This was a report published Tuesday by Yemeni human rights defenders, and it looked at dozens of casualties resulting from U.S. drone strikes and other attacks on civilians in the war-torn nation in recent years. Incidents, the publication says, often occur without accountability, investigation, compensation, and sometimes not even acknowledging what's been going on. Those poor people in Yemen, they have really suffered. It's been 6 years now. Can you imagine being, invaded for 6 years? Our American Civil War only lasted 4. Syria's gone on for 10. Afghanistan for 20. And Korea for something like 60. Over in Iran, They are warning the International Atomic Energy Agency that the comments made by the chief there are damaging the credibility of the process of nuclear verification. And we have reported many times over the last several years about times when the IAEA comes out with comments which are clearly politically biased against Iran. And, Israel and the U.S. have long accused Iran of having secret sites. They have no evidence for this. They send the IAEA to repeatedly search through an old carpet factory, finding what appeared to be trivial amounts of unprocessed uranium, hardly definitive of anything. And there's a lot, you have to remember, in that part of the world, there's a lot of naturally occurring uranium. It's just there in the ground like any other mineral, any other rock. So if it's not processed, it's certainly not, it's not evidence of anything. Here's another story. This is, again, from the original antiwar.com, counting the costs of the Libyan war 10 years later. And, it's time for us to take another break for commercials. We'll come on back and have more news.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out thekosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Extendivite's 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far 5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're talking about the Libyan war. It's been going on or it started 10 years ago, and they just wrecked the country. And it appears in hindsight that the entire motive was about getting Libya to give up its state central bank and accept a private central bank, and to get rid of the gold dinar, which was a value-based currency Muammar Gaddafi had put into circulation. And the rest of Africa was starting to say that was going to be a much preferable means of reserve currency than the U.S. paper dollar, which is based on your future slave labor. So it's been 10 years. They destabilized not only Libya, but a lot of the neighboring countries. Nobody's been held accountable, and it just caused a lot of pain and suffering and misery. And meanwhile, story coming on out of, let's see, the Madness Hub. I need to get a larger font on that. Madness Hub. Over 200 Chinese vessels are in line formation within the Philippine exclusion zone. Now, these are fishing boats, but China has decided that they are going to go and engage in commercial fishing inside somebody else's waters. And considering what the U.S. has been doing in the South China Sea, maybe they're figuring this is a little tit for tat, but it's probably going to be a good way to really ratchet up tensions on both sides. Talking about the economic news, FHA mortgage delinquencies have hit 17.5%. That is a lot of delinquencies. In 30 metro areas, it's over 20%. Now, this seems to belie the idea that we have a red-hot housing market if people are not able to meet their mortgage payments. And I think that's a red warning sign that something is going wrong. All right, the GameStop crash wiped out $5 billion in market value. But according to one market expert, he's saying the shares could skyrocket again. And the firm's new e-commerce push prompted one expert to release Wall Street's most bullish price target, saying that a turnaround could actually justify GameStop's meteoric valuation. Okay. Kamala Harris is out there proposing a $2,000 per month payment through the pandemic, however long it lasts, and for 3 months after. She says it's that basic. Now, we're getting awfully, awfully close to a socialist communist government here. Now, I'm not going to turn down $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month or whatever, but it does seem like they're using the COVID to push this socialist agenda. Up in Oakland, their mayor has been labeled as a racist for giving families of color $500 a month if they earn less than $59,000 a year. No rules on how they spend it. They could spend it on AR-15s and, Jack Daniels whiskey, but white families get nothing. And again, racism in reverse is still racism. I know the left likes to say, no, it's empowerment. When you do it to me, it's racist and discriminatory. When we do it to you, it's empowerment. And that actually went all the way back to the feminist movement of the 1990s, when they were saying that, men couldn't discriminate against women, but women could discriminate against men. So we're seeing the same thing played all over again. Oh, by the way, for those who are not as old as I am, it didn't really work out all that well back in the 90s. Getting on to the immigration situation, the images released by Project Veritas have had an impact. The Biden administration is now forced to respond to the Veritas border images. So what did they do? Well, they took their own camera crew down, and they basically shot some video inside a cherry-picked location where the children actually do have good accommodation. So they're saying, see, the children are happy and they're being cared for, and you never saw those little dog kennel cages, with 20 people in each one. Meanwhile, 11 former Border Patrol officials called the situation grave and warned criminal organizations are capitalizing on the crisis as unaccompanied minors and families distract agents from more dangerous crossers, like drug smugglers and so forth and so on. I saw a statistic the other day that 80% of the females making that journey north wind up getting sexually assaulted. Something to keep in mind there. Now, Biden is claiming the surge of migrants at the southern border started under the Trump administration and blamed Trump for cutting a $700 million foreign aid program. So, again, the politicians are lying about what's going on. Story coming on out of station gossip, Biden has made the worst choice by putting Kamala Harris in charge of the border crisis, according to the Arizona governor. And the administration is trying to calm critics with staged, managed tour of comfortable child facility. All right. Now, as the new migrant crisis deepens, Biden administration, or should that be the Biden-Harris administration, that's what we're all supposed to call it now, is telling the Department of Homeland Security to hide the numbers from the media and elected leaders. They're not to be told what the reality is. Now, here's where the story gets very interesting, and maybe this is the opening by which Biden will step down and Kamala Harris will get that Oval Office. The Government Accountability Office is going to determine whether Joe Biden broke the law by freezing the money for the border wall. Now, that had already been budgeted and allocated for spending. Biden broke it. That may be a violation of the law. And that could be enough to put pressure on Congress to go through another impeachment rather than have to invoke the 25th Amendment, which would only justify everything that Trump supporters were saying leading up to the election, that Biden, was a few hamburgers short of a Happy Meal. Northern states are putting their foot down regarding the Biden-Harris administration plans to fly people at the southern border to facilities right on the Canadian border. And the governor of Montana is threatening lawsuits if this plan goes forward. Governor Greg Gianforte and Attorney General Austin Knudsen maintained to Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas that they oppose the idea of Customs and Border Protection using immigration and customs enforcement airplanes to transport migrant families and children across the country due to a shortage of holding facilities in states on the southern border. It's their problem. Let them deal with it. Getting into wokeness and other areas of the political spectrum, Kristi Noem has really broadsided her own political future by blocking the ban on transsexual men in women's sports. This is the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, and she basically vetoed a bill that would have completely banned transsexual males from participating in women's sports, which I think is a really good idea, and it's long overdue. But she's now being attacked for it, and she is now being forced to deny that she has caved into big business and the NCAA for vetoing that bill. Over in the European Union, Brussels has snubbed pro-family Poland and Hungary by declaring all of the European Union LGBTIQ, BFD, PSD, LSMFT freedom zone, whatever that means here. And Poland and Hungary basically don't want to get with the LGBT program. I think their attitude is, what people do in their own homes is their own business. But they really don't want it in the streets of their country, and they certainly don't want it in the schools. But the EU, Brussels, is saying something else. Joe Biden came out with another statement here saying, let me make one more point. I've told my daughters and granddaughters from the time they were old enough to understand what I was saying, and I mean it. There's not a single thing a man can do that a woman can't do as well or better. Not a single thing. Joe, how about fathering a child? Just think about that one for a while. All righty. Down in Brevard County, Florida, the school board voted Tuesday to terminate a teacher for using medical marijuana. And medical marijuana is legal in Florida. It does remain a Schedule I narcotic at the federal level, putting it in the same category as heroin, LSD, and methamphetamines. And in order to receive certain federal grants, the district said it must be a drug-free workplace. And to meet the federal definition, the district can't allow teachers to use marijuana at all, even when they have a doctor's prescription. Over in Minnesota, they were getting ready to mount a theater production of Cinderella. It's been called off because 98% of the cast was white. Gee whiz, I remember reading Cinderella and watching the movies about it, and, it didn't take place in Africa. Just wanted to point that out. Getting into the science news here, we're all familiar with the star Vega. If you weren't familiar with it as an astronomy buff, it was made famous by the movie Contact, and Jodie Foster went on out there to check it out. And it's certainly one of the brightest stars in the sky. It is. It marks the constellation Lyra, high in the northern sky. And it turns out that there may be a planet orbiting Vega. And that's rather unusual because very few planets have been found orbiting stars as hot as Vega is. So that's kind of really interesting here. Okay. Clothing chain Fat Face customer rented lips. Customer details are at risk. They got hit by a sophisticated criminal attack, which leaves the shoppers open to identity theft. Why, oh why, is not a more serious approach being taken to the problem of cybercrime? Well, one of the ways that cybercriminals are getting away with it, and this is from ZDNet, cybercriminals on the dark web and the underground forums are exchanging tips on how to avoid arrest and jail for doing what they do. And lurking on underground forums has revealed an insight into the methodology between cyber attacker targets, as well as what criminals say to do when and if they are caught. So, research conducted by the Digital Shadow cybersecurity team, released on Monday, explored all the discussions between the black hat hackers and how the exchanges to avoid jail, and said one of the best countries to be in for cybercrime is Russia, and that once you've committed cybercrime, you can stay there in Russia and be perfectly happy. But if you leave the country, you're going to have the handcuffs on you as soon as you set foot in many of the other countries on Earth. So maybe one of the legitimate areas we need to put pressure on Russia is cybercrime. Of course, it's easy to blame Russia. Again, anybody who's committing computer fraud, they're going to compromise a whole network of computers all over the world and use them. And if you're doing any tracking from a targeted machine, the only IP you're going to see is the last one in the chain. So if I were a nefarious hacker, which I'm not, I could jump over to a machine in Great Britain, and then from that machine jump over to a machine in Canada, and from that machine jump over to a machine in Israel, and from that one go to a machine in Russia, carry out my criminal activity, and Russia gets the blame for it. So we need to be careful about who we say is behind all of this. Over in Utah, they passed a bill regarding a mandatory porn filter for smartphones and tablets. And all smartphones and tablets that are sold in Utah starting in 2022 will have to have a passcode to unblock adult apps or sites in order to protect the children. And supposedly the phone and tablet manufacturer will provide adult purchasers with that passcode to unlock it when they're using it. And the more I think about it, especially with the high rate of predators and groomers that are out there, I'm not entirely opposed to this idea. I think it's actually a good one. I mean, we already know there are a lot of systems that have adults-only lockouts. Our cable TV system, we don't use it, obviously, because we don't have children. But there's a little thing in there where you can put a password where you can lock it into children-only mode. So anyway, Amazon Prime has a children's-only mode. And so I think that's a really good idea. Over at Facebook, they have disrupted a hacking operation that used Facebook to spread iOS and Android malware that spied on the Uyghur people from the Xinjiang region of China. Malware for both mobile OSs had advanced capabilities that could steal just about anything stored on the infected device. And the hackers were identified as working for the Chinese government. We get a lot of articles and stuff about how the moon landings were faked. We had that call, I think it was earlier in the week, about how the Perseverance lander was a fake and so forth and so on. And so over at, pardon me, USA Today, no less, they did a fact check on the claim that has been floating around the internet lately that Buzz Aldrin saw an alien while he was on the moon during the Apollo 11 flight. And, of course, Buzz Aldrin has denied that. He's never said he saw any such thing. And he even took a lie detector test for it. But according to the Daily Star, the lie detector test was performed by the Institute of Bioacoustic Biology and Sound Health. And, you know, they said the astronauts were completely convinced they witnessed aliens. However, the test used decades-old recordings of Aldrin and his fellow astronauts and not live interviews. And what they said was a hidden truth was discovered in the tone of Aldrin's voice. In other words, the recordings they had, the astronauts said, no, we did not see any aliens. And the people running the lie detector said, oh, no, they're lying. That's the proof right there. They saw aliens. Now, polygraph, well, if they're using audio recordings, then it's probably a voice stress analyzer, which, while it is much more accurate than the polygraph, it still is open to a little bit of interpretation and manipulation by the operator. Okay, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and we've got a little more science news, and then we're going to go ahead and open up the phones. We'll be right back. And there's supposed to be music here. There it is.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen plan to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
We are living in dangerous days, and I am frightened by what you say. It chills right to the core. This talk of holy war.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines a little bit early here because I'm looking at my talking points and I'm down to articles on particle physics, and that's usually a red warning that I've run out of interesting stuff here. So the phone number is 512-248-8252. The lines are open right now, and we just got word on the emergency notification system on my watch. We're under a tornado tornado watch here in Santa Claus. They've been predicting thunder showers all day. So, of course, most of the day was sunny and scattered clouds, but it's getting murky and dark out there. So we may be in for a little bit of a rough night. Getting into some other news while we're waiting for callers to call on in. There's, pardon me. Here we go. Just give me a second here. Okay. There is a new bombshell report out regarding Cuomo, and they're saying this could be the final blow to end his career. And the report says that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and New York Health Commissioner Howard Zucker directed health officials to prioritize the governor's own family and figures with ties to his administration in the early days of the coronavirus pandemic. This is coming from the Albany Times-Union. And that's using your political power for personal gain. Cuomo's brother, mother, and one of his sisters were among those who received priority tests in March of last year. Okay, so, yep, the corruption continues. Story that's coming on out of Investment Watch blog. Herd immunity supposedly is near despite Fauci's denial. And his estimate that will take 70 to 85% vaccination rate ignores those who've already been infected. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right, well, let's get on back to particle physics for a little bit here. We've all heard of the CERN laboratory. They have some very large atom smashers there, and they're building a new one that is going to be the world's largest when it is completed. But focus continues to be on the Large Hadron Collider, and it's finding indications that the so-called standard model of particle physics may have some problems. Now, the standard model of particle physics is held in as much reverential awe, if you will, as the Big Bang Theory. and so nobody likes to question it. But the standard model says that particles called beauty quarks, which means they're running out of names for these things, should decay into either muons or electrons in equal measure. The new findings from the Large Hadron Collider say this is not actually happening, therefore there's something else that they need to be looking at. Now, particle physics is an interesting area, but I have my questions about what's going on inside those colliders. Okay, we're going to take a break for station identification. The phone lines are open, 512-248-8252. We have a caller waiting, and we will be right back.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to take a phone call from Kevin in West Virginia. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mr. Mike. I hope you and Miss Claire are doing well.
We are.
I wanted to make a comment when you were talking about the moon landing, and I also wanted to make a comment which you were just talking about with CERN and the Hadron Collider.
Yes.
The moon landing thing. The Navy not too long ago declassified a document that they achieved 0-point energy and anti-gravity back in 1959. I was always under the belief that what was televised was fake, but I'm not saying we didn't go to the moon. I'm just wondering if they faked it so most people didn't know that we had that technology at that time, and our enemies, and as the Soviets and everything else. I'm saying we went, but I'm saying they staged, a production scene so people didn't know that we had this type of energy, or type of anti-gravity or 0-point energy.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting theory, and I've heard variations on it for a while. And you need to understand that one of the ways that corporate media and the government are trying to maintain control over the American mind is by trying to destroy the credibility of independent media. And usually, this includes things like chemtrails and fake Apollo landings and flying saucers and all kinds of really crazy stuff to make us look like we're kooky. In fact, the process has the name kookification. So, I would be very, very cautious about accepting something like that. And, a good way to make it look like it's credible is to say the Navy has declassified this document, and yet they don't provide the actual document.
And true, I forget when that document was released after they did the back in December, and I forget what year it was. It was recent after the Tic Tac video. If you remember all of that, yeah, that was released. That document was released after all of that had happened. And with CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, a lot of my friends don't even know this, but I actually hold a master's degree in physics.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I know a lot of stuff about CERN, but with CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, a lot of people have to understand there's the public, what you see on the surface, what they're doing, and then there's what they're really doing. If you get on the website, you can, and they flatly, clearly say, we are trying to pierce the veil. They're trying to look in between the veil. So they actually are doing some type of stuff with dimensions, peering into other dimensions and things like that, which, under the string theory model, with the mathematics behind that, they're proving that there's other dimensions. And the weird thing with CERN that I don't quite understand, why do they have the goddess Shiva as their main patriarch goddess or god there?
I remember when that statue went up there, and a lot of people were saying, what is really going on there? And it caused a tremendous controversy over there. Now, getting on back to other dimensions, if my memory serves me correctly, the current theory is that there are 11 dimensions, but you've got height, width, and depth, which are really just arbitrary labels. I mean, there's no place in the universe where things are lined up at right angles. It's a construct with which to take something that exists in 3 space and mathematically describe it. The 4th dimension is often referred to basically as being time itself, and the dimensions 5 through 11 are considered they're wrapped around all matter, so small we cannot see them.
No, totally agree, and you're absolutely correct with that description. You're spot on with that. It's interesting. It's fascinating. I guess we'll all find out one day what's really going on. But I just wanted to put my 2 cents in with the Apollo thing. I didn't want to sound really, really kooky, but this is a theory that I've been working on, especially after I had seen that Navy. That Navy document was declassified. It's just really interesting, and I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mike.
Okay, well, just to play devil's advocate here, all of the technology used on the Apollo was based on already existing technology. They simply improved it and found better ways to do things, new materials, new rocket fuels. The one major breakthrough that we all benefited from was, of course, the creation of the integrated circuit, which we all use. And, my involvement with Apollo was on Apollo 12, where I helped analyze some of the lunar samples that were returned from the moon. Now, if it was all a fake, why would they go to the bother of hiring me to run proton luminescence studies on dirt, and then write up a report on it? I was never seen on TV. Nobody reported on me. I was completely invisible as far as the public was concerned. So just want to get my 2 cents in on that. Okay, let's go to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing
Mike,
fine.
We're talking again about all the attention they're creating with Russia.
Yes.
Even about them doing all the hacking. I don't believe that for a second. I think the hacking is being done all over the world. A lot of them are not even by government officials.
I think a lot of the hacking is done here in the United States of America, or we'd see the United States government take a much stronger stand against it.
And I think there's people even like in the old saying about in your father's basement. I think there's a lot of that going on too. I mean, it doesn't seem all that difficult to hack into something. These things are not as safe as they make them out to be, and that's why I do less and less. I do almost no financial transactions on the internet. You know what I mean? I certainly don't bank on the internet. To me, that's absolutely crazy.
I agree.
I don't put my financial information on my phone. I can go pay. Matter of fact, lately, mostly whatever I buy with cash now. because I don't want to be tracked.
I'm
traced,
exactly the same
or
way. I
anything.
have
Okay.
no banking information on my cell phone or my tablet, and very limited on my desktop computer. I still do things with that old-fashioned wood pulp stuff.
Yeah, but as far as Russia goes, I would say they're not that crazy. They're not going to push Russia. But you know what? These people, like I said, so many of these people are right now within our government are in some kind of psych med and other medications that are affecting their thinking process, starting with the demented imposter sitting in the White House right now,
Mm-hmm.
that anything is possible. And then it's that whacked out woman that he's got as his vice president. What I call Hillary with a little bit more pigmentation, And so what would happen if they started a war? See, this is where I disagree with you. They said it would cause, tremendous casualties. It would cause casualties, but we would get our butts kicked almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the war started in Ukraine, okay, we'd have no chance. We're virtually, and when I say we, I mean the whole NATO. They'd be demolished. Russia is preparing for that. They prepared for something like that since World War II. All right, they're not going to let another Operation Barbarossa happen on your borders. So they're ready. But the problem is, at that point, what would these madmen do? Would they decide to just lick their chops? It would be very, or would they go to nuclear war? And that's the question you got to ask. Would they be willing to risk the fate of the entire planet? I don't think Putin would be the first one to fire off nukes. I think it would be the madmen that govern the United States and much of Western Europe that are more likely to start turning to nukes. And then, of course, that's just for the planet. I mean, it's not that we'd be fighting I don't think the planet could survive something like that. I really don't. I think it would pretty much be over at that point.
Well, if all of the world's nuclear weapons were detonated, yes, it would, all it would be left would be the cockroaches. But, a billion years and they might prove to be a very viable, intelligent civilization. Mark, before I let you go, I want to ask you a technical question. What exactly are you using to make the phone call into the show with? Is it like a headset or a speakerphone, or what's the deal?
I use speakerphone. I never put my phone by my ear.
Ah, okay, because I was getting an echo of my voice coming back from your end, and of course we do have a delay in the system, and that explains a mystery that we were dealing with. So thank you for the phone call here, and the phone lines are open now, 512-248-8252, and we're going to go to Steve in Manhattan. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. You should have been supporting Trump. Trump is a total Zionist.
I'm
Hello?
sorry?
Yes, Trump is basically a time traveler.
Now, a time traveler? That's a little bit out there.
They made jokes about it. It was Funny or Die made a joke about it. They put the actor, what's his name, Christopher Lloyd played a role of Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Funny or Die, comedy skit in which future Trump helped the past Trump become a billionaire. And then it was also a Jimmy Kimmel show.
Okay.
They joke about Trump being a time traveler. So I'm saying it's factual because I'm inside information in Silicon Valley that time travel is real and they're actively changing the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was so basically Trump actually was invented by the Chabad organization called Chabad, created Donald Trump, become a real estate billionaire and a president of the United States.
Okay, well, Steve, thanks an awful lot. It's an interesting theory and certainly, good material for a comedy show here. And we're going to let you go. Our phone lines now are totally open. Area code 512-248-8252. And I'm going to hunt down some more stories to fill in the time until we get some more callers here. There's been a lot of talk lately about Russia's so-called black hole submarine. It is their most quiet submarine yet. It's kind of like a, It's like a real live version of Red October. It's very, very hard to detect. And the author of the article I'm looking at is saying that it may be the reason why we have seen the U.S. sub-hunters P-3s and P-8s been very, very busy lately, because this submarine could easily sneak up on either coast of the United States and launch very, very fast nuclear attack. 5 minutes from launch to impact, for example. And so that would be a very, very scary situation. Russia learned the importance of silence and quieting their submarines. So did China, for that matter, from the U.S. SOSUS nets, which have since been decommissioned, as far as we know, and turned over to the whale watching people. Right now, the anti-subs forces are mostly focused on air assets and what are called the SIRTAS boats, which are these modified tuna boats towing these huge, huge sonar arrays. Okay, we have another caller on the line, and this is, let's see, it's Malon in Indiana. Hello, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I have been pestered enormously by Tom in Indiana
Yes.
to give you a call.
Okay.
And he says you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I have not ever talked to a radio talk show host before that did proton luminescence. So I feel very, very honored to, most people, you don't know anything about them like that, but no, Tom and I were involved. I was very much involved in trying to prevent the 1994 Gun Control Act.
Yes, good.
Which banned the, quote, assault weapons. And I want you to know that you can shake hands with a senator, and he'll tell you that he's not going to do anything like that, and then proceed to go and vote for the Gun Control Act.
Yes.
And then if you get to see him at a political party rally, like I did in Indianapolis, and I just shook his hand and held on to it, and I said, oh, what a beautiful... I said, you lie so well, and I got to tell him all the things. You stood there and told me you'd never vote for the Gun Control Act, and then you did, and look at you now. You're still our senator. How'd that happen? That must be a mistake. The thing that people need to understand about gun control is it's actually about the deprivation of self-defense.
Yes.
It's the first major step of any tyrannical government to make that will lead to the abject defeat of them. You can use the Indians in our own nation.
Yes.
They were told to disarm. You could have this place to live. I believe that there was the same skit that was performed on the Jews in Germany.
Yes.
Just register your guns. We want safety and we want security. Oh, yeah, it's really tough here in the city with all these people bothering you. We've got a place in the country where you'd be safe. There's actually a book out there that's called "How Do You Kill 11 Million People?"
Yes.
I read that book. It was about Nazi Germany. I've always been fascinated by history and really, really taken in by it. How could one of the most educated, religious peoples, such as Germany had, be led so astray by pure evil?
Well, because Hitler did not look evil to them. At the time, he made sense. He was initially voted into office. And as you say, politicians are very good at lying, and that's what Hitler did. And most German people really were unaware of what was being done behind their government's back because they didn't have anything like the internet back then. And, of course, our internet today is under attack to silence us, which I think is signaling that our government is getting ready to do something really nasty.
Well, I hope people will keep in mind that, you're actually giving up your ability to defend yourself and to live.
Yes.
You're literally making a sacrifice that will affect your children, your grandchildren, and Western civilization as we know it. I want people to understand that what's happening now is different races, in particular now the white race, is being described in the same terms as Jews were in Nazi Germany.
Yes.
We are now the new Übermenschen.
Yes.
And you probably know that term.
Yes.
And the subhumans. And they're literally writers that are out there writing and appealing.
It's actually Untermenschen.
Be eliminated as a virus. I'm sorry?
It's Untermenschen, subhuman. Ubermensch is the Superman.
Well, that was the other term, and I confused the two. It's been a while since I've used the German that I don't know.
I haven't used German on a regular basis since, long ago.
Yes. But the thing is that we are being turned into these Untermenschen,
yes,
as you said, and we must be careful about this. It's too late to tell everybody to go out and buy $6 boxes of 9mm. That doesn't exist.
No, it's $1 a pop now.
Yeah, we need to work together and join together. And Tom is responsible for me calling into you. He's been after me for over a year now. You got to call. And what I do want to point out, though, is that Tom may actually be the original time traveler. You're going to have to tease him if he ever calls in again. He had a DeLorean. That he kept in the garage. Yes, and from time to time it would be missing.
I see.
And I'm wondering if Tom wasn't the actual original Back to the Future.
Well, if Tom calls in, we'll just have to ask him here. Getting back to more serious situations, though, if you look at the history of the great genocides of the 19th and 20th centuries, you will find that every single one of them was preceded by a gun ban on the targeted population.
Yes. The Armenians.
Yes.
In Turkey, everywhere, whether in China, everywhere they have chose to remove people and hold distinct sections of society. They always get rid of the guns first. So I'm not telling everybody to arm up for the next war, but it sure would be handy if you had something. Please consider, make your find out who your neighbors are, try and understand what they're thinking, where they believe, what's going on, that sort of thing, because unfortunately there'll be an enormous amount of pressure to rat you out. One of the features of Nazi Germany is that neighbors of the Jews were allowed to keep some of the Jews' possessions by ratting them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, enough history. It's great listening to you, and as I said, I don't know what your whole background is, but neat show. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and please call in again. We got to take a break for commercials. We have more callers waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
Please view, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stop Terrorism. Please contact us if you or anyone you know who wants to be on our show at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com. Keep it real. Take the red pill.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Corporations, Wall Street and the banks rule our politicians. They don't deserve our thanks, then they tell us the banks are too big to fail, when the banksters all need to be in jail.
And welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network needs your continued support to go on doing what we're doing. And the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719. Extension 3. And if you mail in a donation for $100 or more, include your t-shirt size and return address, and you will get an official RBN t-shirt and the bragging rights that go along with it. And don't forget the Front Sight Firearms program promotion is still ongoing as well. Okay, we're going to go back to the phone lines now to Rodney in Illinois. Hello, Rodney. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. I have a screenshot in my mind.
Okay.
From a Star Trek movie.
Okay.
And it is, let me briefly describe it. Captain Kirk finally gets to the center of this intelligence. And
yes.
And he finds the Voyager spacecraft.
Yes.
Now, I have a visual of that. I've only seen the movie one time, who knows how many years ago. But were there actually depicted visually on the side of that craft anatomically correct man and woman?
No, that was Pioneer that had the anatomically correct man and woman, and Paramount certainly would not have allowed that on the movie. What was on the Voyagers was a phonograph record, and it included the little cartridge with which to play it, and what was engraved on the cover for the record were symbolic instructions on how to play the record and decode. One side was audio, and the other side were still frame photographs of life on Earth, and it was basically a message to anybody who'd find the spacecraft. But after all these years, it's only just now left our solar system. The two of them have just now left the solar system. They're past the heliopause. But interestingly enough, a couple of months after the Voyagers were launched, somebody got on the NASA teletype and said, message received, send more Chuck Berry.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Well, I've heard you say many times, if you can force your opponent to behave in an absurd or foolish manner, I think you probably put it a different way. But mankind has, if we could say that, has sent out to all, in the universe who we are.
Yes.
So with this cancel culture, shouldn't they since they're in control of NASA now, shouldn't they send chaser vehicles after all this information and correct it?
There's no getting it all back. It's all out there in the radio waves. And it was kind of interesting. We were talking about the movie Contact before, where the radio relay station near Vega played back the Hitler broadcast from the German Olympics. Not because they admired Hitler, but because that was the first powerful TV signal to leave our planet and head out into space. But, you know, we're trying to hear transmissions from other planets. It's very, very difficult to do. I personally think we'd probably have more success listening for the emanations from their AC power distribution systems, because then you're talking a lot more energy than radio and TV broadcasting stations. Unfortunately, the radiative power of a radio signal is directly proportional to its frequency, and since we're talking about 50, 60, 100, 400 hertz, it's going to take a very, very sensitive receiver to find it.
All right. Well, I got another one.
Yeah.
Totally different. It has to do with your appreciation of astronomy.
Yes.
And I'm not even a novice, but I came across this illustration to put in practical perspective distance.
Yes.
And it has to do with 1 AU approximates 1 inch, and 1 light year approximates 1 mile.
Yes.
So the nearest star being Proxima Centauri, if you would look down at your toes and put your 2 big toes 2 inches apart, Proxima Centauri would be 4.2 miles away.
Yeah, about that.
So my question is, Mike, is the margin of error, and you know, we're talking about the nearest star.
Yes.
And we're still talking about light years, and we've got time involved, and we've got curvature. I'm really wondering how, who do I go to actually confirm that astronomical observations and distances are accurate?
Well, it's kind of a complicated issue. Now, for objects that are near to the solar system, they use what is called parallax, which means they'll measure very carefully the angle of an object like Proxima Centauri when Earth is on one side of the sun, and then 6 months later they'll take another measurement, and the difference in angles basically gives the baseline for a trigonometric calculation of the distance. For objects further away than that, there are what are called the Cepheid variables, which have an absolute relationship between the luminance and how often they pulsate. All right, there's going to be a quiz next period. Stay on the line. I'm going to come right back. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Rodney in Illinois, and I'm sort of wallowing in my science background here. We're talking about how it is determined the distance to various objects as seen from planet Earth. And for close objects like Proxima Centauri, it's done like a surveyor would do it with 2 sightings across a baseline. And in this case, the baseline is the diameter of Earth's orbit.
Hence, Mike, can you repeat in your own words kind of that rule of thumb that I started off with? Because, that's a visual. People can understand 2 inches and they can understand 4.2 miles. So you bring up, I'm a carpenter, so I got to square buildings, get things straight and lined up. And I've got lasers and I got levels. But I never looked at something 4.2 miles away and look for a deviation of 2 inches. I mean, that's just boggles my mind.
Well, it is, but that's what the instrumentation is designed to do. But of course, it doesn't work for objects that are really far away, which is why I was talking about the Cepheid variables, which is a type of star whose brightness is directly linked to the periodicity of how it varies. And we can look out into the universe and see these Cepheid variables, and we can see how long it takes them to go from bright to dim, work backward to get their absolute brightness, and then take their apparent brightness here on Earth, and that gives us a good indicator of their distance. Now, beyond that, of course, there is the red shift, which is becoming a little problematic. Now, this is something that Edwin Hubble noticed. Objects that were further away in the universe appeared to have a more red-shifted spectrum. Now, he himself did not say that meant the objects were receding or that the universe was expanding. That came from an astronomer who was also a Catholic bishop called Georges Lemaitre. And he's the one who came up with the idea of the universe is expanding, and if you run it backwards in time, then there had to be a supreme moment of creation. But there are other things that cause a redshift over long distances, like Rayleigh scattering, and it's one of the reasons why I don't think the Big Bang Theory is really going to survive much longer.
Well, if your next caller wants to continue with your indulgence, which I thoroughly enjoy, I want to leave you with a trivia question.
Okay.
There's a short story, and the villain of the story has the name of Sylvester McMonkey McBean. Do you know the title of that short story?
No, I do not.
Its author is Dr. Seuss.
Oh, well, I didn't read all of his books when I was... We got to bring Dr. Seuss back. I mean, we can have... What's her name on... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The title is Starbelly Sneetches. And I might, I've read it a couple of times. So I can't remember when I found it. I saw it as a cartoon as a kid, of course.
Yes.
But I remembered this, and it just reminded me. Oh, I was going to say, I could rename this The Price of Diversity. The Price of Diversity. Read that poem
Okay.
with that title. And anyhow, I'll let you enjoy that. But anyhow, it's a very predictive programming, and you'll understand why I give it that title, The Price of, what did I say?
Diversity. The price
All right,
of
Mike,
diversity.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. We're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good day to you, Mike. And to that one caller, I'm not Tom with the DeLorean, but I do own a couple Starfires, old Starfires. So I'm still trying to figure out how to make a flux capacitor. And yeah, so that's what I'm working on. And to your last caller, yeah, you can't even mention the word Dr. Seuss without be called a racist. So
Yes.
you got to be careful when you mention that name Seuss. So anyway, Mike, here I'm going to get to Mars in a minute, but before I get to Mars, I do want to mention this. I saw in the news today that a bunch of Chinese are sneaking through that border along with these Central Americans. So how all these Chinese get in Central America and they're dumping over here in the United States, probably running up to San Francisco or Austin, Texas, or one of those touchy liberal areas of the United States. This is all by design to wipe us out, Mike. So that's just the way I got to say about that. Now, I want to go back to Mars.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go to, I want to talk about New Schwabenland. The Nazis. You brought the Nazis up.
Yes.
Supposedly there was a bell, Mike.
Yes.
And there was another bell that crashed in Pennsylvania. I believe it was in 1956, was it?
Yes.
I believe a bell crashed. And it supposedly had like swastikas on it or something, and they never talk about that. And however, the History Channel, Mike, all day today. You know what they've been doing all day today on their advertisement, Mike? And before I go to Mars, I'll tell you what they're doing.
Please do.
All day long, the History Channel's been running ads about how Asians are being discriminated, so they're going to be the new blacks.
Yes.
And white people are out to get them. Why? Okay, if that's the case, Mike, why are all these people coming here, whitey, so bad?
Yeah.
Why are these Mexicans, Central Americans, Chinese, why are they coming here, Mike? Why? What the hell is the reason for them to come here if white man is so bad? We're still the majority. We need to keep our
Look,
majority.
we all know
Once
it's,
we are down there,
we all know this is USDA choice bovine excrement, and to sort of back up a little bit on you, those bell-shaped objects that you're talking about were actually film canisters from some of the CIA's earlier keyhole spy satellites. It wasn't even called keyhole back then. Before they could have the real-time video feed from space, they would launch these giant cameras that would have 6 film canisters on them, and they would shoot the film in the canister and then drop the canister down, recover it, develop the film, and this is how they were spying on Russia before they reached the age of video cameras in orbit.
yeah. Okay, now, Mike, did the Nazis not work on a bell system where they were trying to go interdimensional? Weren't the Nazis working on that? Because I saw it on Ancient Aliens, where they actually had a bell.
I'd be very careful about what you see on
not.
Ancient Aliens. I'm sorry. It's an entertaining show.
I got a point. I got your point. But listen, now I want to talk about this, Mike. I want to talk about Mars.
Yes.
There is a place on Mars called Sedona, right?
Yes.
Why haven't they landed something like 100 feet from there, 100 yards from there, to take a picture of what this thing is? Supposedly it's a face. I guess it's Sedona. Is that what it's the face of Sedonia?
Sedonia. Sedona is a town in Arizona. The area you're talking about on Mars is called Sedonia. And they've already imaged that mountain with much higher resolution from orbit, and it kind of looks like a face, like the old man in the mountain in New Hampshire used to before it fell apart. And the human brain is wired to see faces because that's how we recognize each other. And sometimes we'll see faces where none actually exists, and it's just part of human nature. But that peak on Mars, it's been imaged at very high resolution, and I'm sorry to say it's not a giant sculpture of a face.
Okay, but Mike, I got to on this information. I went to Cape Canaveral. It's not far from me. It's up the road, a couple hundred miles.
Okay.
I went to Cape Canaveral 10 years ago, and they had this guy who's narrating. He was talking about there's a giant trench on Mars. On all the planets it's like 100 times bigger than the Grand Canyon.
Oh yeah,
And
the Valley Marineris.
Yeah, exactly. And they were saying they already have a technology to put air on that can make clouds on Mars. It would take probably 30 to 40 years to bring these machines that they're working on,
Yes.
to drop them in that canyon, which is like 3 times deeper than the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
Drop them in there, and once they can get clouds over that canyon, the canyon would actually flood water. It would flood into water, the clouds, and you actually make a river basin right there again,
Yep.
which stretches from, I guess, New York to California, from New York City to Los Angeles. And once they could flood that down, you would actually be able to tame that planet where you would have green algae, and you would actually be able to survive on that planet within 30 years after doing this process.
Well, actually, now they're beginning to realize there's a lot more water on Mars than was previously thought. I mean, there was a lot of, shall we say, planetary bias going on out. Originally, everyone knew there was no water on the moon. That was proven to be wrong. And then they said, well, if there's any water on Mars, it's only a little tiny bit. And even photos from the Spirit rover showing puddles of brackish water on the surface of Mars didn't convince them. But now they're realizing there actually is a lot of water. It's just, under the surface of all this red dust. And amazingly enough, it turns out that red dust is only a few inches thick. And underneath that, it goes back to a more normal planetary regolith.
Right, exactly. But, Mike, getting back to now what our situation with space is.
Yes.
If the Americans would team up with the Russians, I don't know so much about the Chinese because they'll be trying to be dominant like they are right now. But if the Russians, who are Caucasians, and the Americans would actually work together, they probably could have a living civilization on the planet Mars, I believe, within 80 years.
Yeah, they probably could.
I don't know.
They probably could. I mean, do you remember John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy wanted to end the race to the moon, and he wanted to go to the moon in partnership with the Soviet Union, and that was one of the reasons that so many people hated him.
Exactly. And Mike, another thing is people don't realize it, but the space program in Russia and the space program was made in here, were by Nazis, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
We are our space Cape Canaveral, Russia. They didn't. There wasn't Russian brains that made those rockets. It wasn't American brain. I mean, there was, of course, they helped, but it was Nazis. Who's kidding who here?
Yeah, when Germany, my turn. When Germany was losing the war, the rocket team at Peenemünde, some of the scientists said we want to go to the Americans, and the others said we want to go to the Russians. And Wernher von Braun went to the American side, and so they split up kind of evenly. And Russia's space program for a long time was run by a guy named Sergei Korolev, and he was kept secret not just from the West but even from the Russian people until he was blown up witnessing a rocket launch, and then he was made a national hero, and they gave him a very nice funeral and a tomb.
Yeah, exactly, Mike. And one more thing, I'll let you go, and then got callers. Mike, by the way, in World War II, and I didn't realize this, George Patton's family they were in the Confederate Army.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew that. His uncles and all that, they fought for the Confederacy.
Yes.
But also, I didn't know this. The three main battle groups of white Anglo men who went to fight Germany were Germans, Italians, and British. That were American extract. I mean, they were American citizens, of course, Americans, but their bloodline came out of Germany, Italy, and England, and you had French too, but mainly they were the first group was German, English, and Italian, and you had of course you had American, Polish, and Swedish, and you had French. But you know what? All these guys that went back to fighting against Hitler, they were European, Northern European men
for the most part.
Let's not kid ourselves. 90% of them. So even all the wars. So I like the story of Patton. I believe even MacArthur's family was MacArthur's family. I believe were from Bavaria. They were Bavaria. Remember, in Germany,
not with a name
England,
like MacArthur.
No, I'm talking about his grandmother.
Okay.
Remember, they're different. Well, they're Northern Europeans, Mike. But people don't even realize when I studied even in England. The kings of England, the first king that sat on the throne of England, the first, I believe it was 5 of them or 8 of them, they were German-American. They were German men.
Yes.
I'm not German. They were German. They spoke German in the English throne. King Henry VIII and his family bloodline was Bavarian.
Well, they were, in order to build peace between nations, there was a lot of intermarriage between these royal families. Very often, very often, countries were being ruled by rulers who didn't speak the native language.
That's correct. So, I find a lot of this stuff fascinating, Mike, and I'll let you go, but the most fascinating thing I find out is all these people talk about America, how bad white he is, they all want to come here.
Yeah.
The white man
it doesn't really make sense. It really doesn't.
Bring him here. If Biden, the president of the United States, bumbling buffoon Biden, thinks white men are so bad and so evil, why is he bringing all these different cultures here? Why? I tell you why, Mike. He wants vote.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Deflect the
They're going to load up all the red states with all of these illegal immigrants, and this HR 1 is going to make it possible for them to vote because nobody's going to check the ID. And yeah, they're literally legalizing the way that they stole the last November's election. Anyway, Tom, I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to switch over to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Boy, it was great to hear Tom and that information he shares. And I sure hope he's feeling better. I'd hate to lose any more Rivero Rangers. Michael, I thought that was a very good definition you gave about dimensions in that.
Yes.
And I think that was really valuable. I'd like to hear the fella from Indiana, Tom's friend, and Rodney. I wish those guys would call more. And I would like to hear you do a show like on this kind of stuff, maybe once a week on a Wednesday to break it up, because we all understand what we're facing with Biden and this administration, and 4 days a week would be good. But I think 1 day a week of this type of topic would be great.
Okay. I mean, I love science, and, I came from a science background originally before I got into the movie business.
Yeah, maybe you could consider that. And then I wanted to share with the caller that was from Indiana, he was talking about how Germany was discriminating, except now it's on the white male. I would say, in my estimation of things, it more reminds me of the way the white is being discriminated against over the past 2 decades in South Africa, is what it's reminding me of.
Oh, yeah. I've been pointing that out for some time now.
Yeah, and the progression of it, the way and the manner in which it's progressing. Also, I've heard you mention several times about the waterways and the plastic and the seas and everything like that. And, we have all these worldwide initiatives, but the sea feeds so many people. Why don't we have an initiative to take care of that plastic? Now, I've heard you mention a few times that it may be about the size of Texas.
Well, there's a, there's because of the North Pacific gyre current, a lot of the plastic that's been dumped into the ocean has sort of been pulled into this one area in the North Pacific. Now, if you went out and looked at it in a boat, it would still look like, plastic here, plastic there. It's not a big solid clump. You can't build an island on it. But there is an organization whose name escapes me at the moment that is basically going on out with boats that are basically set up to scoop the surface and recover the plastic and bring it back for proper disposal because it is proving to be a hazard to ocean life, including those species we rely on as a food source.
Yeah, well, I'd be all for us going out there and whatever we got to do. If we got to use the military, if we got to use aircraft carriers, but to get down there, whatever way we have to take it apart, dismantle it, deconstruct it, cut through it, and haul it in by any means, trawler.
Trawlers would be ideal.
We got.
Trawlers would be ideal.
Yeah, and
somebody just has to spend the money to do it. And it would be nice if Bill Gates, who's always talking about taking care of the planet, instead of spending so much money on vaccines and the rest of it, would say, yeah, let's clean up the mess that we've already made.
Well, if Pelosi and the Democrats are so concerned about the environment, why aren't they pitching in with an idea like this?
I don't know. That's a good question. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials here. All right, Miles, thanks a lot. We're going to come back for our last segment. We got callers waiting on the line. I'm going to try and get to all of them, and we'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here's a testimonial from Amazon.com. I am only 40, but I have put my body through hell working in manufacturing for 20 years. I recently started to notice a buzzing feeling along with a stuttering sensation with my heart. I had a full cardio stress done, which I passed. I decided to try Extendivite after getting the jingle stuck in my head. Halfway through the bottle, I really did notice a difference. After getting home from work, I would just sit in a chair for a few hours feeling like crap, and this stuff reduced that feeling along with heart discomfort to almost nothing. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did.
Welcome back to our show. Last segment of the program today, and we're going to go to James in Vancouver. Hello, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, you mentioned the Hadron Collider. One thing I hear people say, and I find this very annoying, is that when they get this thing up to a certain energy, they're going to open the gates to some other dimension. And I really find that ridiculous. It's very annoying.
Well, they're the same people who think that CERN is going to accidentally create a quantum black hole, which will then slowly eat the entire planet.
Well, yeah, and the problem there is that the second law of thermodynamics isn't going to let that happen. But
no.
Also, I just wanted to bang on these flat Earth people here a bit. If the Earth were flat, we'd all have sunrise at the same time, wouldn't we?
Well, the new variation is that the Earth is more like a flattened torus, and I saw this in the National Geographic. And again, this is the stuff that's being poured onto the net to make us look like we're all a bunch of nutcases that no decent, serious, loyal American would ever want to look at. But again, any high school student with a Foucault pendulum can prove that the Earth is in fact moving, and that, again, using the same logic that Columbus did, looking at ships on the horizon, yeah, the Earth is round. Plus, we have all those photos from spacecraft.
Yeah, okay, well, I think you're tight for callers, so I'll call you back next time then.
All right, well, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to go to Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, one thing about Tom's, he has this
his pet peeve, he talks about the white guys in America that won the war, but actually the Russians won the war. They killed more Germans, and they suffered a whole lot more casualties than the Americans did. Not to minimize the Americans' contribution to the war effort there. And Tom, on his, he talks about the TV commercials where they have interracial couples.
Yes.
Well, I hate to tell him, but all the commercials are stupid. All the advertisements on TV are stupid, and all the shows are stupid.
Yes, they are.
The solution to his problem is just to get off the cable like I did about 20 years ago, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Okay.
Well,
Mike,
early in my career, I worked in advertising, and we came up with some really creative stuff at that time. In fact, for a short while, I was doing commercials when we lived in Hawaii, and we were known for coming up with really clever, funny, creative stuff. But the whole purpose of a commercial is to get you to buy a product. You will buy this product.
There used to be some good commercials. The Maytag, the Lonely Maytag. Repairman. People would watch the commercials. They'd watch TV just because they enjoyed the commercials.
There was, some of the commercials we did at Robert Abel.
The driver's seat.
Yeah, Don.
Remember that one? O.J. Simpson was shown flying into the driver's seat.
Yeah, I remember that one as well. Some of the commercials we made at Robert Abel and Associates were so popular, people were calling the TV stations to say, when is that going to air again? Anyway, Don, I got to let you go here. We're at the end of the show. My apologies to those people who did not get on the air yet. Please call in tomorrow. And stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I think Steve Elkins is sharing the mic with him tonight. And spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. As you can tell, we're buying new equipment. And we'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.